Hey everybody, how's it going out there? Oh man, I'm recording late today, so this video is going to go up pretty late. Spent some of Saturday talking to other individuals in the fandom, mostly particularly revolving around the story I did last week. And so there is an update on that story, and I said I would update it on the story if I found anything else more. And it turns out I was right. Woo! Yay! Like it does feel cool to when you made the discovery that you were like, oh man, the thing I thought was right, and then it's like, oh, I got to write this up, and get it down because like a lot of people are gonna want to know like what happened here and stuff like that, and so I spent like my entire last weekend writing an article for Flera and around the whole incident. Regarding that, and I believe it's right here. Yeah. So this article went up last Sunday, talking about it goes over in detail about like some of the stuff I talked about in the video last time, but even more detail on how this individual, as a chairman in Connecticut, kind of misinterpreted what the website was actually doing, and sort of what was public facing and what wasn't public facing, what this tag system was used for, and they did. So I put up this article, and within the same day, good on So Furry, they got on the whole. They got on the issue. They separated out the two pages that was causing confusion. They made it more clear that the likes and dislikes features were different than the tag restriction features, and they updated the thing. I updated the headline just yesterday after talking with the main individual at So Furry who runs it is Tomal, and we had a good conversation yesterday, and I did end up changing the headline just after that conversation to more make it indicate that the issues that were developed in the article had been resolved to a satisfactory degree, so that other individuals would not get confused about what was going on the webpage. So the description below will have a link to the main article, which I wrote, which I do believe the last video I posted also had a link in that description, because literally by the time I got done recording the video to the time I put up the video, I'd actually gone through and written the whole article. So basically my entire Saturday was shot. You're welcome. I had no Saturday to myself. It literally was like a 10-hour stint. But it was well worth it. It was a good it was a good resolution to a very perplexing and somewhat troubling story. But on a lighter note, what they say goes around, comes around. Speaking of individuals in politics who let technology slap them in the face, right around that time when we were posting that article and talking about that thing, like the very next day, Ted Cruz wound up in a bit of a pickle himself. Ted Cruz is a senator from Texas, and probably needs no introduction. He tried to run for president in 2016. But he lost. He was the last one in the primaries against Trump. That poor bastard. But anyways, here we have a mistake that his intern made, where he liked a thing of pornography on Twitter, and it ended up in his timeline, and people saw it, and they were like, So here we go again. So the interesting thing here is that with high-end politicians, they'll let their interns sometimes use their Twitter feed, and when you're an intern, and sometimes you might not realize you're on the right account. Sometimes, even the person who worked at So Furry told me that he had an issue with Twitter sometimes, where he accidentally posted a political thing and he thought he was on his personal account, but he was on the So Furry account, and that caused him to have to go, oh, why? So you got to be careful that you're on the right account. That's something that you got to be aware of. To me personally, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know if like all these politicians just don't want to figure out how to use Twitter or anything like that, so they might outsource it to an intern. They're more in the conversating in person style of thing. But to me, it's like it's a skill you need. Like, it's no longer like you need to know how to use social media as a politician. You need to be able to do it yourself. You shouldn't be outsourcing it to other people. It's a very powerful tool. It's like literally like saying like. It's literally like having somebody ghostwrite your autobiographies. I mean, I guess you could get away with it and become president of the United States. Who am I to judge? But to me, it is an important feature of the modern era. And, you know, the fact that millennials and people like me and younger say, like, they outsource their social media thing. Like, we hear the term social media, like, as a paid position, like, oh, the social media person who runs the social media. It's like, that is so easy. Why do they need to outsource that? Like, to us people who grew up with these computers and how they work and how they function, it's like, it hits us in the face. Like, what? You need to outsource this kind of a thing? And it's so simple. It's so easy. You just go on there and you type some words. I mean, what's so hard about that? And knowing some of the culture behind those words and like what is okay to say and what's not okay to say. I mean, to individuals such as, you know, the younger generations as us, it's like it's so simple, so easy. But to the people who are older and more used to other means of communication, such as telephone and stuff like that, I guess it is sort of like a gulf of. There's a gulf there that they just don't understand, so they outsource it to people. If I were ever in public office, my personal frickin' Twitter would be my personal frickin' Twitter. No one's touching it. I think that if you had a Twitter feed or a Twitter account for your office, say like the 23rd District of New York or the Senate office, the first Senate office of New York, or the second Senate office of New York. This is its Twitter feed, like the senators of New York. This is the group Twitter feed, right? Like that, like this is the one that your interns can use because it's not your personal account that's going to get tied back to you, and people are going to go, "Why did you post porn on your personal Twitter account?" I didn't do it. It was my intern. Oh my gosh. So. One of the things that came up with this too is that the like function versus the retweet function, and there's some gulf of evaluation there. Like a lot of Twitter users really got upset when they're seeing their likes posted on other people's timelines more and more often, because there was a belief that likes on Twitter are private. Like that, it's like, well, if I want to share it with the world, then I'm going to hit the retweet button, right? That's what the retweet button's for. So I guess it's like, so when you're thinking about it from a user's perspective, it's like, well, if I want to share this with my friends, I'm going to hit that retweet. I'm going to right there hit that retweet button. Whereas if I want to keep it private and personal, then I want to hit that like button. And more often, people are seeing more and more people's likes from the people they follow on their personal account, and they're like, then what the heck is the point of the retweet button versus the like button? If I'm going to see retweets at random and likes similarly like retweets at random, then the purpose between the like and the retweet button, the difference between the two becomes less. And to the user, that's confusing, like, because it's like each button should have a distinct and purposeful use. So a lot of like people who, you know, pay attention to the latest social media like changes and like different things are like, oh yeah, of course the like button shares it with all your followers. It's been doing that for 3 years, and now people are complaining that it's not doing that anymore. And that's like, so that means that to a good portion of users, this functionality did something completely different than what it was originally intended for. Somewhat similar to this issue here. So it's not just a furry user interface problem, and it's not just like, oh, this is a problem because we're amateurs and stuff like that. The professionals get it wrong all the time. Professionals who treat the like button like the retweet button can end up sometimes getting somebody else's egg in the face. Now, I'm not saying that's what happened here, But there is that issue that it's like, why do the like buttons have different functionality and different expectations than the retweet button? Twitter has potential, but it has a lot of missing features. Like being able to like something in private, being able to see something as a reference. By the way, for me, when I'm using Twitter, if I ever need something, and this is kind of some advice, if I need to reference something later, but I don't necessarily want to retweet it and show quote unquote support to my followers or anything like that, if I have but it's important bits of information that I got from somebody else, and I'm like, I need to reference this later in case I want to do a talk or an article about it, I will hit the mail button, that little message button with the envelope, and I will send it to myself and then use it as a later reference. So then I can look at my own private messages and go, okay, here's that thing I sent myself about this particular thing so that I can reference it later. Luckily, if it's big enough, like a Ted Cruz making a mistake like this, I could just Google Ted Cruz Twitter image, click. Oh, there it is. Ted. Also, going back to this, this particular story, Boozy Badger recently did an article on his own webpage talking about some hypocrisies in this particular small town revolving around politicians who are Republicans who have done some sort of shady, very no things. Like, I think there was a judge who committed assault and battery on his wife. They recently did a film in that small town of New Milford revolving around some very, very disturbing topics like incest and young pedophilia, basically. Like that was a theme of a movie that was filmed there, and the town was more than happy to take the income from the money coming in from that. Boozy's article goes more into that particular instance, and I'll put a link in the description below for that particular article that basically says, well, it's like, yeah, this dude's a furry who writes some very risque things. Well, glass house and stones and things like that. Here's some dirty laundry on the other side. And as much as I hate the dirty laundry kind of things, it's always somewhat entertaining to see like the whole hypocrisy, as it were. So it's a entertaining read. And he was kind enough to link to my article on Flera, so I'm kind enough to link to his video or his article around that. Still, Boozy, you're in the fandom for very strange reasons. So you keep at it, bro. You keep doing it. Anyways, his reading's very entertaining. So I guess that basically wraps this one up. I didn't have too much to talk about on this one. I was just basically a follow-up. Oh yeah, some other disclaimers. In my conversations with other people, it's important to realize that Flera, while Green Reaper is the editor-in-chief of Flera, he does have other editors, and editors can publish without referring to the editor-in-chief. I do not have to talk with Green Reaper about anything I publish on Flera. I could write it up myself, publish it myself. It no longer requires his hand. It's useful to have somebody overlook what you write and then post it. But Flera has evolved over time, and it's no longer just Green Reaper's baby who he has control over everything and absolutely everything that gets published there. I have a lot of say in what gets published now. Dronin has some influence over that. He works very hard on some of the smaller but important things like the whole monthly wrap-up of the news bites that occur. He's been very busy this year, so like I've been handling most of the stuff. I try to get at least one article published per day and stuff like that. That being said, no, this article, as talking about SoFurry's graphical user interface, was not an intended hit piece or any sort of thing that was tied with Ink Bunny in any manner. If Ink Bunny's interface led to an issue or a situation such as this, you bet your bottom dollar I would report on it and talk about how Ink Bunny's user interface caused issues with, like, caused somebody's issues in their career. Or if it happened at Furaffinity, which I've had multiple articles about Furaffinity over my 7-year tenure there in Flera. I've had probably a good 5 or 6 articles regarding Furaffinity and controversies that happened there, such as the forum issue, such as the Silver Eagle issue, where they were promising compensation to him but never really gave it to him. There's a lot of different articles. If you go to my history, which I could put in the, like, if you go to Flera and go to my personal site on Flera, which I can put in the description below, it shows every article I've written. There's plenty on Furaffinity. Like, I've been contacted by individuals in upper power, and they have their whole their whole say on the articles that get published and whatnot, and they provide their critique, which is very welcome. I'm fine with that critique, and it's very welcome, and I thank them for taking the time to do that. And by the way, running furry websites like that, like this, like just running Flera to me has been a lot of time and a lot of effort. I can only imagine if it, like, to me, all I have to do is publish some articles and like edit a few articles here and there. For somebody who runs a website that a lot of furries need in order to, like, that basically almost an economy sort of drives around. Like, Furaffinity has like an entire economy behind it. So Furry probably also has an entire, like, need and desire and thing around it, where a lot of people rely on it, not just for the small things. Like, they rely on it for the community to actually thrive. And a lot of people, like, don't understand, like, that is a lot of work. It's a lot of effort. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of heart that's poured into that. And these guys deserve their full credit, and especially for fixing the issue within like a 24-hour period as soon as the article was published. And but I do think that the article itself does show, like, as far as like people who want to get into interface design for furry fandom websites and furry fandom things, it is very much a showing that, hey, like, these things are actually important. Flera does not have its flaws too, as far as design goes. One of the biggest issues is that you do need to have some HTML background in order to really make good-looking articles, because it requires, like, good use of HTML, which in the modern era, that's usually supposed to be phasing out. People are supposed to be using markup languages or just using rich tools. But you can't really use the rich tools because they mess with things in Flera, which is something I had to learn the hard way. And because I kept using the rich text format, and that kept messing things up. And they're like, Greener was like, can you stop using the rich text format? And not until I became an editor did I realize how badly the rich text editing format ruins things. And I'm like, this is horrible. And so he's like, yeah, it is horrible. I told you to stop doing that. And I'm like, okay, I understand why you told me to stop doing it now. So now I'm going to have to relearn some HTML, and I'm fine now. There's also, like, the whole subscription thing for comments, which is a horrid thing because it, like, does it twice for each thing. And then it never understands when you hit the unsubscribe from this thread button, it doesn't do it for some reason. So it keeps spamming your email thing. And I've even had people critique me and say, I basically put Flera on my spam filter because, like, it doesn't work quite the right way. So, Flera is not without its faults. No website, every website can be improved. Everything can be improved for the betterment of the user, and it's important to understand that when, if this happened to just be one of those news articles that was like, okay, this is a big problem, and this caused a big problem for one individual. And we do have a lot of people who are big difference makers in this fandom, not just a chairman, in Connecticut. There are people in a lot of positions that need to be creative and where the kind of creativity that the fandom provides really lets you excel at your job and excel at what you do. And thusly a lot of furries out there. There are furries out there who are in very powerful positions, and so and they're very important positions within our community. So it's important that they understand what they're letting be known public and what they're letting be known private. It's important that the user interfaces doesn't mislead them and these kind of things. And this is something that we understand and will improve over time. And I think I thank people for reading the article and making it, by the way, the second highest ranked article in the history of Flavor. There's actually a ranking of articles based on rating, and this one is actually number 2 now, underneath an article I did on the unfortunate thing on Lemonade Coyote losing his life in an EMT thing. That one's number 1 on Flavor. And you're right, and unfortunately, it's like I'd rather not have that. Or it's like it's one of those things when I do obits. It's like I would rather that not be the most well-received article. It's like I would rather have that person back. It sucks. It's like, can I trade all those stars in and have this person come back to life? Like, can I do that? Can I trade? Would that be something? No, can't do that. All right, but anyways. Thank you very much for watching. Oh, by the way, Irma did go through Florida and the weather front. And now Jose was moving towards Florida, and then he saw how hard Irma went down on Florida. He's like, Senor, oh, no, Senor, I don't, you need to clean yourself up. I'm not dealing with that. Irma went down on you hard and dirty. You need to get yourself cleaned up. I'm just gonna go up here and you do you. You get cleaned up and I'm not gonna do no. So yeah, luckily Flora dodged a bullet with Jose. But Maria is on the way, and her path seems a little bit more persnickety. So we'll keep an eye on that. I guess this is going to have to be a weekly thing now, is me talking about hurricanes. Why? Why do I have to talk about hurricanes on a weekly basis? I shouldn't have to be talking about hurricanes on a weekly basis. I feel like Jose. It's like, no, I'm not gonna touch that. I'm gonna get the hop out of here. Kick a comment in the comment section. Kick the like. Kick the subscribe button. You do you. Make sure you don't click the like button if you don't want to share it with the world on the Twitters. All right, you could get in big trouble. Don't do it. All right, but until next week, I will see you later. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.